Hello, this is Dan Wise, and this is my movie maker presentation of the famous black heavyweight boxer Jack Johnson. This is for Dr. Kurt Kemper's American Sports History class at Dakota State University. Over time, it seems that racial epithets lose their way as society becomes more modern. Such is the case as when, in late August, Republican Representative Lynn Jenkins spoke to conservatives and gave encouragement that the party was in search of the next great white hope. It was then revealed by Tim Carpenter of the Topeka Capital Journal that the phrase had a racial history linked to the reign of Jack Johnson. In the 1900s, racial tension grew as America was in search of a white contender who could relinquish Johnson of his heavyweight championship. The racial tension that existed at the time stems from the fact that much of the white population of America could not deal with the fact that a black man had bested one of their very own, whom they considered the best in the world. For a black man to establish physical dominance over a white man undermined the belief that the white race was the dominant race. Jack Johnson was born in Galveston, Texas, on March 31, 1878, to Henry and Tina Johnson, who were former slaves. Johnson grew to become one of the first celebrity athletes of the 20th century. At the time of his reign, he was a dominating physical force, standing at over 6 feet tall and weighing 200 pounds, which was massive for the time. His presence was simply imposing. With rippling muscles, a coal-black complexion, and a shiny bald head, he began his reign as a world heavyweight champion in 1908, when he beat Tommy Burns in the 14th round to claim the true world heavyweight title. It was during this time that the term Great White Hope came to prominence. Much of Johnson's success can be attributed to his unique approach to the sport. Johnson took a more patient, defensive style that was different from what many boxers would use. Johnson was more apt to build intensity throughout the fight. He would work to avoid many hits and punish his opponents relentlessly when they made mistakes. He thrived on taking advantage of small windows of opportunity during any match. His overall record is quite impressive, as he fought in 104 total matches with 73 wins, 40 wins by knockout, and 13 losses. The sports press at the time hounded Johnson for his style of fighting, saying that it was cowardly and devious. Kent Burns points out in his documentary Unforgivable Blackness that a fighter existed nearly a decade earlier named Jim Corbett. Corbett was a white boxer from San Francisco, California, and used a very similar style to that of Jack Johnson. Of course, during this time of the sports press lauded Corbett, saying that he was the cleverest man in boxing. White Americans were reeling from the shock of seeing a black man rise to such an echelon of fame and fortune that they began a search for a contender who could match him after his victory against Burns. Johnson squared off against would-be contenders in a series of exhibition matches. Many answered the call to be the Great White Hope, but they also fell due to Johnson's strength and prowess in the ring. There were a couple notable matches against Stanley Ketchel and Philadelphia Jack O'Brien. These two boxers were a challenge to Johnson. Ketchel was able to knock Johnson to the ground, only to be knocked out toothless moments later, and O'Brien, a great middleweight at the time, ended his match with Johnson in a draw. With Johnson drowning any opponent sent his way, white Americans called to retired former heavyweight champion James Jeffries to end Johnson's rule over professional boxing. The bout was billed as the fight of the century. Jeffries had been retired for 6 years and had to lose weight for the fight, but on July 4, 1910, the fight took place at an event specifically built in Reno, Nevada for this fight. Johnson knocked Jeffries down twice during the match, and the fight ended in the 15th round, due to Jeffries' people calling the fight over to prevent the former champion from being knocked out. After the match, Jeffries spoke about Johnson, saying, "I could never have whipped Johnson at my best." Jack Johnson became one of the first prominent celebrity athletes of the modern era. His skill in the ring was equal, if not eclipsed, by his outside ring persona. Johnson earned several endorsements during his career, which he often used to fund race car driving, fur coats for his wives, and other ostentatious spending sprees. Johnson's legacy can be summed up with the myriad of praise he received over the years. He was inducted into the Boxing Hall of Fame in 1954 and is listed in the International Boxing Hall of Fame and the World Boxing Hall of Fame. Johnson's physical dominance and outside the ring antics made him a sports personality that was impossible to ignore. Muhammad Ali often credited Jack Johnson as an influential boxer, both in style and mentality. Ali related his opposition to the Vietnam War to the play of Jack Johnson and his constant harassment by white spectators. I want to thank you for listening, and this has been a presentation by Daniel Wise at Dakota State University.